Hello friends, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my review of Dispatch. So for those of you who don't know, Dispatch is kind of a game in the same vein as like Telltale's The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, that sort of thing. And it's actually developed by several former members of that team who, formed their own studio called Ad Hoc Studio and released this game. And so just so you all know, I'm going to divide this review into two parts, which is non-spoilers at the beginning and spoilers near the end. And so now for the non-spoilers section. So in Dispatch, you play as Robert Robertson, a former superhero who was known as Mecha Man, who he was forced to temporarily retire after a mission went wrong and his suit was destroyed and the power source was lost. So now, down on his luck, Robert is approached by Blonde Blazer. She is a superhero who works with a company called SDN. And in exchange for repairing his suit, SDN wants Robert to work with them as a superhero dispatcher. So this is where the main gameplay takes place, and it's albeit is a loose term of the word gameplay because there's really not much in this game as far as gameplay goes. If you've played any like Telltale game, you know what you're in for. It's mainly just selecting dialogue options and hitting quick time events. And along with being a superhero dispatcher, there is another catch. The heroes that we are dispatching are actually former supervillains who are trying to turn over a new leaf. So it's up to Robert and us to choose whether to nurture these baby heroes and get them to put aside their villainous ways, or push them further into their villainy. I really enjoyed the cast of this game. Each character is memorable in their own way, and their powers and personalities really distinguish each one from the other. So most of the focus is on Invisigal, who's formerly known as Invisibitch. She is an excellent character and is voiced by the lovely Laura Bailey, who is just an icon. Along the way, you'll also develop your relationships with the staff at SDN, including Blonde Blazer, a true bro named Royd, and a living legend in the former speedster Chase. And all of these characters blend to make the game what it is. Their performances are really what shine here. I feel everyone did a great job, which isn't really surprising considering how many stars are here, including almost the entirety of Critical Role, along with some familiar faces in the YouTube space. And so the humor in this game almost entirely relies on sarcasm, which could have been grating over time, and that was something I was concerned with, starting out. But honestly, the actor's delivery of the lines, mainly Aaron Paul as Robert, made the humor so much better. His deadpan delivery in humorous moments and his emotional delivery when things got serious made me love Robert even more.
Alright, just so you know, I only turned around because someone yelled, not because I'm a bitch or anything. I think he knows that I sacrificed everything and that I did my best. Being Mecha Man, protecting my community, was the greatest honor I'll ever have. Now I have to live knowing that.
And so the biggest strike against the game, in my opinion, is the gameplay, or rather the lack thereof. And I get it, this really isn't what the devs were focusing on, but like even Telltale games let you walk around and click on stuff. In Dispatch, you'll occasionally do a few quick time events with your mouse, select dialogue options, and do the Dispatch minigame. I just thought, they could have let you just like walk around the office and like interact with like characters and stuff like that. But the Dispatch minigame is actually pretty fun. So you're presented with a map of the city, and various calls will come through throughout your shift. You'll read the description of the call and then assign whatever hero you think is best for that scenario. And as you progress, you can level up your heroes' different stats, which allow them to perform better on calls. And you can also unlock different abilities, such as one hero getting the chance to re-roll their performance with a better outcome, or another hero duplicating the hero that they are with for better stats. There's also a hacking minigame during this section, but it's pretty easy. I never really had any trouble with it. Just to summarize this non-spoiler section, Dispatch is a very narrative-rich game, which will have you laughing one moment and empathizing with a broken person the next. The characters are fantastic, the gameplay is fun when we get to it, and I definitely recommend this game. If you have any desire to play it, I suggest you go do that and then come back to finish the next part of the video. And alright, so just last warning for spoilers, I'm going to be jumping around the game in kind of a linear way, but I might jump back or ahead once in a while. But without further ado, let's get into the spoilers. Starting off with a casual talk that is slowly revealed to be an interrogation scene was just chef's kiss. And a massive superhero fight is always cool to see. Seeing Robert after the fight, just a broken man, was a great character intro. He kind of reminded me of like those soldier type characters who, had accepted they were going to die in the war, and now that they're home, they just don't know how to function with it. And I also thought the world introduction was so cool. I really like how they mainly focused on Robert in this episode and just built the world up around him, and just waited until further episodes to delve into it. It really allows us to get attached to Robert before getting overwhelmed by the other characters. And I really loved just like the 80s like synth soundtrack. It was great. But starting off with episode 2, the main cast really shines here. Chase is awesome. He's very vulgar, but does start to accept his mentor role over Robert. I love Royd. He's just an awesome dude. And I love Beef. He's just a little chunker. Dealing with the little shits of the Z team is very amusing. And the highlight of the episode for me, of course, is Invisigal. Her messy fight in Granny's shop was great at showing just how awful she is at being a hero. And her and Robert's argument sets up their relationship for the rest of the game. And despite, being a messy pairing, I really do like these two together. I also covered for her with Blazer because my Robert was determined to help all of them become heroes. So in episode 3, I really didn't like the whole cutting someone from the team angle. I feel like it went against the current theme of redemption for the heroes. I was really expecting a chance to keep both Sonar and Coop, but unfortunately the game forces you to cut one, so I chose Sonar as I really hadn't experienced much with him yet. And it really hurt to see him go, and I'm still kind of salty I couldn't save him. I thought Invisigal and Robert's talk in the playground was great. I chose to pick her back up during the pep talk, and so it was really great seeing her finally triumph over Lightning Struck. She's a goated character already, and I really thought her taking the picture of her name on the leaderboard was really cute. In episode 4, Phenomenon is really fucking weird. He's super weird, and the entire episode is just dedicated to him. So not much to say about this episode. He's just a weirdo. Except for the end where I chose to see a movie with Vizzy. That was pretty fun. It was an alright episode. It was actually really gameplay heavy this time, which was always great to see. I like that minigame. In episode 5, I really liked how they slowly built up Robert revealing his identity to the team. From banter in the break room to charged confrontations in the gym. It all builds throughout the episode. And it culminates in the final scene. But before that, there's nothing like a good old bar brawl to build morale. This bar fight was a very fun sequence. Seeing the others help each other made it feel like we're finally a team. And of course Robert's reveal afterwards was great. And of course Flambe was pissed, but I saw that coming. And I like how the others are more nonchalant and just kind of reveal their names too, and just, immediately accept Robert.
My name's Courtney.
Nice to meet you, Courtney.
Katan-Ur was the name given to me on my planet. When I first arrived on Earth, the ladies at the Nordstrom rack I worked at called me Dumpy due to my large posterior. You may call me either.
Janelle.
I'm Alice.
Bruno.
Malevola. Your last name's Gibb?
My name's Colin.
And at the beginning of episode 6, the team banding together to save Robert from, his suit was just a great scene. And just built off their chemistry, and that was established in the last episode. Beef is so cute, dude. And then we get a party scene, and I love the gag that they all just bring him lamps. It's just so goofy, and, just so them. And I really like how it just deepens their bond, showing how much they've come to care for Robert in their own ways. But, Chase kind of made me mad that during this episode. I get it, I get it, he still distrusts them, but why are you so chummy here if you think they're all villains? And, personally, I thought Vizzy's plan wasn't too terrible. All they had to do was send someone to, look after her during this. But, of course, after the argument, she goes in alone, and this sequence was pretty tense. And of course, it ended in heartbreak as Chase speeds in to save her and collapses afterwards.
Keep up. No!
In the beginning of episode 7 was pretty sad, but at least Chase barely survived. And of course, it puts a damper on the team, and they want Vizzy out. But like, honestly, it wasn't her fault. It was my plan too. I just wish they would have given me an option to say that during that scene. And speaking of Vizzy, her reveal, that she was in league with Shroud, but then left, just made me like her more. She's just like Robert. She's just broken and trying to stay afloat, and I think that's why these two work together so well. The bartender scene with Shroud was insane. I had forgotten that he was voiced by Matt Mercer, but I instantly recognized his voice, so I knew that character was important, and I was just kept trying to figure out who he was going to be. Then of course, he just shoots the bartender in the head. And of course, we get a great villain monologue for him, and the reveal that Vizzy stole the pulse just get a lot more messier in this episode. And Blonde Blazer's entrance to save Robert is just aura. She's great. And of course, like every other superhero movie, the penultimate episode ends with the city burning and chaos. And so the finale opens with all the calls overwhelming you, and this was really fun, balancing the small roster and calls as more teammates trickle in. And we finally got Waterboy, locking in and joining the team. He's actually pretty good. I wish we could have gotten him earlier. And along with Blazer, who, always clutches the mission she's on, I really wish the fight with Sonar was more involved. At the very least, like a short cutscene or something of the team, confronting him. And I also thought it was kind of weird how, considering my choices with Vizzy, people still distrust her, and Robert doesn't say anything about it until we're alone. Kind of gotta love that telltale jank. I get it, it's hard writing so many choices and stuff like that. But I immediately freed her, and it's obvious she hid the pulse out of concern for Robert. And seeing Mecha Man finally teaming up with the Z team to kick ass was awesome. I love the little interactions between them. I can't show punch-up scenes for obvious reasons, but I thought that was pretty funny. Chase's new power-up was a very fun surprise, and the sequence of all of them taking down Shroud felt very satisfying and earned. And of course, he targets Beef afterwards. I chose to give him both of the pulses, and of course he chose the wrong one. And of course he's mad, so he shoots Robert, but Vizzy has to save her Pookie. And as Robert is beating him to death, I chose to spare him, to fulfill that theme of redemption and to show the Z team that they don't have to give in to the darkness within to be a hero. And their celebration afterwards is so cute, and it feels really earned as, the former villains embrace their heroism. I chose to let Sonar back into the team because everyone deserves a second chance. You shouldn't have cut him in the first place. Come on. And we get a nice freeze frame of our
weird, fucked up family.
So just to conclude, Dispatch was a great story, despite the clunky gameplay, and I also had occasional frame drops, but all in all, I had a wonderful time. Robert and the Z team story of redemption and perseverance is an all-timer in my book, and Dispatch definitely gets a recommended from me. And with that, that's the end of the video. I just want to thank you guys for watching. If you want to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, go ahead. But without further ado, bye-bye.